The ultrasound technician's hand froze mid-scan. She stared at the screen. Blinked. Moved the probe. Stared again. Without a word, she set it down and left the room. I looked at Joshua, my heart already racing. What's wrong? He squeezed my hand. Probably nothing, babe. But when she returned with Dr. Matthews and another doctor I'd never seen, I knew it wasn't nothing. Dr. Matthews picked up the probe himself. Scanned my belly slowly. His face went from professional calm to complete confusion. He removed his glasses. Rubbed his eyes. Put them back on. Mrs. Peters, he said carefully, I need to ask you something. Have you ever had surgery involving your reproductive system? My throat closed. Joshua's grip tightened on my hand. Yes, I whispered. 11 years ago. Emergency hysterectomy after a car accident. The second doctor leaned forward, staring at the screen like it was lying to him. Dr. Matthews turned the monitor toward us. His voice shook slightly. Then can you explain this? On the screen, a tiny flickering heartbeat. A 12-week fetus. And surrounding it, a perfectly healthy uterus. Let me take you back 11 years. I was 26. Joshua was 32, a construction foreman with calloused hands and the gentlest heart I'd ever known. Our wedding was 14 days away. Everything was perfect. Dress hanging in my closet, champagne fountain ordered, honeymoon flights booked to Cancun. We'd spent months planning every detail. That Saturday afternoon, my bridal shower was everything I'd dreamed. My best friends filled my sister's living room with laughter and terrible games involving toilet paper wedding dresses. Joshua's cousin Jessica was there, cooing over the tiny onesies people gifted me. You and Joshua will make the most beautiful babies, she said. I blushed, imagining our future. For kids, we'd agreed. 2 boys, 2 girls if God was generous. I drove home with my back seat piled with wrapped presents, my heart so full I thought it might burst. In 14 days, I'd become Mrs. Joshua Peters. The sunset was gorgeous, orange and pink streaking across the sky. I was thinking about our honeymoon, laughing to myself about Joshua's terrible dancing at our rehearsal when I approached the intersection. The light was green. I didn't see the truck until metal met metal. Pain. That's the first thing I remembered. Sharp, brutal pain radiating from everywhere. Beeping machines. Fluorescent lights. The sharp smell of antiseptic mixed with something metallic, blood, I realized later. I tried to move. Couldn't. My body felt like it belonged to someone else. She's waking up. Joshua's voice, rough like he'd been crying for days. I forced my eyes open. His face swam into view. Bloodshot eyes, 3 days of stubble, hospital bracelet on his wrist from refusing to leave. He breathed, his hand finding mine. Thank God. Thank God. I tried to speak. My throat was sandpaper. He gave me ice chips with shaking hands. You've been unconscious for 3 days. The accident. His voice broke. It was bad, baby. Really bad. Over the next hours, nurses came and went. Joshua's mother appeared with food containers she'd brought daily. His father squeezed my hand and said they'd been praying without stopping. Everyone had been so worried. So scared. But something in Joshua's eyes told me there was more. Something he wasn't saying. Late that afternoon, a doctor in surgical scrubs entered. Kind face. Grave expression. Maya, we need to discuss your injuries. Some conversations destroy your entire future in 60 seconds. This was mine. The doctor wanted to speak to me privately. I looked at Joshua, panic rising. No. Whatever you need to say it in front of him. He's going to be my husband in 11 days. The doctor hesitated, glanced at Joshua, then nodded slowly. He pulled up a chair and sat, never a good sign. Maya, the impact caused severe pelvic trauma. When the paramedics brought you in, you were bleeding internally. Heavily. He paused, choosing words carefully. Your uterus was damaged beyond any possibility of repair. It was torn. Hemorrhaging. The room tilted. We had minutes to decide. We could attempt surgical repair and risk losing you to blood loss, or we could remove the uterus and save your life. He looked directly at me, his eyes full of compassion I didn't want. We chose your life. We performed a complete hysterectomy. The words landed like physical blows. Without a uterus, pregnancy is impossible. I'm deeply sorry, Maya. Especially this close to your wedding. But you're alive. That's what matters. He excused himself quietly. The moment the door closed, I turned to Joshua. Sobs tore from my chest, ugly, broken sounds. The wedding's off. I can't marry you now. You deserve babies. A family. I'll never. Stop. His voice cut through my panic. Would you still marry someone who couldn't give you children? Most people don't. Joshua slid off his chair and knelt beside my hospital bed, taking both my hands in his. Maya, look at me. I couldn't. I stared at the ceiling through blurred tears. Maya. Please. Finally, I met his eyes. They were wet too. I don't love you for your uterus, he said, voice rough. I don't love you for babies we might have someday. I love you. Just you. I believe God can do miracles. I really do. Maybe he'll give us kids through adoption, fostering, maybe something we can't imagine. But even if, his voice cracked, even if we never have a single child our entire lives, I'm still marrying you. I shook my head. Joshua, you don't understand. You are my destiny partner, he interrupted firmly. God showed me that. Nothing's changed. Then he said something that would define our next decade. But listen. My family knows you had surgery. They've been here, praying, visiting. But let's not tell them it means we can't have kids. Not yet. That's our private pain. Just between us and God. Can you promise me that? I was too exhausted to argue. I promise. So we made a pact. His family would know about the accident. The surgery. The emergency. But the infertility? That devastating truth? That secret would be ours alone to carry. Sometimes the secrets we keep to protect ourselves end up crushing us. The doctors said I needed 3 weeks minimum before any physical stress. Our wedding was in 11 days. Joshua family gently suggested postponing. Give Maya time to heal properly. But Joshua was adamant. We're getting married as planned. By some miracle, or maybe just youth and stubbornness, my body healed faster than expected. Stitches dissolved. Bruises faded from purple to yellow to nothing. I pushed through physical therapy like my life depended on it. 2 weeks after the accident, I stood in the church bridal room wearing my white gown. It fit perfectly. My makeup artist had done an incredible job. You couldn't see any trace of trauma. My hair was styled in soft curls with tiny white flowers tucked in. You look absolutely stunning, my bridesmaids gushed. I stared at my reflection and saw a beautiful stranger. Inside, I was dying. This was supposed to be the happiest day of my life. I dreamed about walking down that aisle since I was a little girl. Joshua and I had already picked baby names during late-night talks, Noah and Grace for the first 2. Now those names would never be used. The wedding march started. My father took my arm. Ready, sweetheart? I wasn't. But I nodded anyway. Every step down that aisle felt like walking through water. Guests turned, smiling. Some dabbed tears, happy tears they thought. My bouquet trembled in my hands. At the altar, Joshua stood waiting. When he saw me, his whole face transformed, pure joy radiating from him. He was getting his dream. I was burying mine. The pastor spoke about covenant, sacrifice, loving through trials. I barely heard him. Joshua, do you take Maya? I do. His voice rang clear, confident, certain. Like he'd never been more sure of anything. Maya, do you take Joshua? My voice came out as a broken whisper. I do. When the pastor said, "You may kiss your bride," Joshua kissed me tenderly. I kissed him back and cried. Everyone thought they were happy tears. They weren't. The reception blurred together. Cutting cake. First dance, slow and careful because my body still ached. Smiling for photos until my face hurt. Playing the role of the happy bride while grief suffocated me. That night in our hotel room, Joshua held me carefully and whispered, "We're going to be okay, Em." I wanted to believe him. For 10 years I tried to believe him. For 10 years we carried our secret alone. What they didn't tell us. Sometimes the hardest part isn't the loss, it's pretending you're fine. "Any good news yet?" Joshua's mother asked it casually over Sunday dinner. Year 1 of marriage. I forced a smile. When God wills it. She beamed. "I'm praying for you both." Year 3. You know I'm not getting any younger. I'd love grandchildren while I can still play with them. Year 5. Is everything okay? Maybe you should see a specialist? Year 7. At a family Christmas, an aunt pulled me aside. "You're not one of those career women who think she's too good for motherhood, are you?" By year 10, the questions became accusations. "What are you waiting for? You're being selfish. Joshua would be such a good father. Don't deny him that. If you can't have kids, at least tell him so he can make an informed choice." Every question was a knife I couldn't pull out. I was 36 now, working as a maternity nurse, delivering other women's babies, watching their joy, then going home to our yellow nursery we'd painted 8 years ago in desperate hope. It was now a storage room. Joshua, 42, worked construction. His crew made brutal jokes. "Hey Peters, shooting blanks? Need some vitamins?" He never defended himself. Never explained. Protecting my privacy even when it cost him his dignity. We tried adoption. Twice. Both rejected. The worst kind of pain is the kind you can't explain to anyone. Joshua, cousin Jessica seemed to have everything I'd lost. Married at 22. 3 kids by 30, boys aged 12 and 9, a daughter aged 7. The perfect family. Except when you looked closer. Her 12-year-old had been suspended 3 times this year for fighting. Her 9-year-old was failing school. Her 7-year-old threw screaming tantrums in grocery stores that made strangers stare. Jessica yelled constantly, shrill, desperate yelling that never worked. Then she'd given out of exhaustion and the kids learned they could outlast her. Her husband Marcus came home, surveyed the disaster, and blamed her for all of it. "You're their mother. Why can't you control them? This house is a pigsty. We're drowning in debt because you can't say no to them." To escape, Jessica took a job as a medical records clerk at the hospital where I worked. Different departments. We rarely saw each other. One slow afternoon, she was searching archived files for a patient named Maya Richardson. When she typed Maya P. into the old system, 2 names appeared. Maya Paul. Maya Peters. Curious, or maybe just nosy, she clicked the wrong one. Mine. What she read made her freeze. Emergency hysterectomy. Complete uterine removal. Post-accident. Patient, Maya Peters. Age 26. Prognosis, permanent infertility. For one moment, Jessica felt genuine sympathy. Then jealousy crept back in like poison. She just found Maya's deepest secret. Joshua's parents' 40th anniversary party was massive. Extended family, old friends, neighbors, church people filling their backyard. Joshua and I arrived late. My shift at the hospital had run over. After dinner, Joshua's mother stood and tapped her wine glass. "Before we end this beautiful evening, I need to say something." The yard quieted. "Bill and I have been blessed with 40 wonderful years." She smiled at her husband. "But there's one thing that would complete my joy." She looked directly at us. "Joshua. Maya. You've been married 10 years. 10 years. I'm 72 years old. I don't know how much time the Lord will give me." Her voice turned sharp. "When are you going to give me a grandchild to hold before I die?" Every conversation stopped. Every eye turned. My hands shook. Joshua's jaw clenched. Then Jessica spoke, her voice carrying across the silent yard like a stone through glass. "Auntie, maybe there's a medical reason they can't." My blood went cold. "I work in medical records, you know," Jessica continued sweetly. "Funny thing happened last month. I was searching for a file, someone with a similar name to Maya, and I accidentally pulled up Maya records instead." Joshua's mother frowned. "Jessica, that's... Did you know Maya had major surgery? Emergency surgery. Right before their wedding. Every family has secrets. Jessica just detonated ours in front of 50 people. That's a HIPAA violation," someone shouted. But Jessica kept going, her eyes fixed on me with something like triumph. "Maybe that surgery is why they haven't had kids. Maybe it's not their choice at all." Whispers erupted like wildfire. Joshua's mother's face shifted from confusion to dawning horror. "The accident before your wedding, yes, we know about that. But Maya, that was just broken bones and internal injuries. What does that have to do with?" She stopped. Her hand flew to her mouth. Every eye pinned me to my chair. I stood slowly. The chair scraped against concrete, the only sound in the dead silence. "You want the truth?" My voice shook, but I kept going. "I'll tell you the truth." Joshua reached for my hand. I squeezed it. 2 weeks before our wedding, I was driving home from my bridal shower. Happy. Excited. A truck ran a red light. My voice cracked. The impact crushed my pelvis. I was bleeding to death. The doctors had seconds to choose: try to save my damaged uterus and lose me, or remove it and save my life. I have no womb. I will never be pregnant. I will never give birth. Ever. Someone gasped. Joshua's mother swayed. "Joshua has known since day one. We didn't tell you because this was our private grief. But for 10 years you've called me selfish, career-obsessed, defective." Tears poured down my face now. And I just had to smile and take it. "What would you say to your family in this moment?" That night, I packed a suitcase. Joshua found me in our bedroom, folding clothes with shaking hands. "What are you doing?" What I should have done 11 years ago. I didn't look at him. "I'm setting you free." "Maya." "No, listen." I finally met his eyes. "I've watched you with your nieces and nephews. Your whole face lights up around kids. You were made to be a father, Joshua. You'd be incredible at it." I zipped the suitcase. "I can't give you that. I won't steal that from you anymore. Go find someone who can give you a family." He crossed the room in 2 steps and knelt in front of me. "Do you remember what I told you in that hospital room?" I looked away. He gently turned my face back. "My faith hasn't changed, Em. Not one bit. God can give us children, I still believe that. Adoption, fostering, maybe a miracle we can't imagine." His voice broke. "But even if he doesn't, even if we live our whole lives childless, you are my family. You're my choice. Always." I sobbed against his shoulder while he held me. We didn't know it then, but someone was about to offer us a lifeline. A small Thursday night gathering that would change everything. Sometimes God's answers come from the most unexpected places. A week later, Ruth from the hospital approached me during a break. "Maya, would you come to our house fellowship Thursday night?" I almost said no automatically. I was angry at God. Done with church people and their empty platitudes. But something in Ruth's eyes stopped me. No pity. No judgment. Just genuine kindness. Joshua convinced me to try once. Thursday evening, we pulled up to a modest house. Warm light spilled from windows. We could hear singing, not performance quality, just real people worshiping. Inside, about 15 people filled a cozy living room. All ages. Genuine smiles. And Pastor Grace. She was in her 50s, silver hair pulled back, kind eyes that had clearly seen pain. She didn't preach at us. She shared her story. 13 years my husband and I tried for a baby. 3 miscarriages. Countless treatments. I was so angry at God I stopped praying. Then one day, broken, I finally surrendered. Truly surrendered. I said, God, your will. Not mine. Even if I never have a child, I choose to trust you. She smiled through tears. 6 months later, I got pregnant with my son. But the real miracle wasn't the baby. It was learning to trust God when He wasn't giving me what I wanted. Something in my chest cracked open. The fellowship was beautifully imperfect. Sister Margaret, 70, told terrible jokes. What's orange and sounds like a parrot? A carrot. Everyone groaned. Brother Timothy brought enough food to feed an army. Leftovers for everyone. The worship was off-key but sincere. Prayers were messy but honest. Over 3 years, we returned every Thursday. Not because anyone promised us a baby, but because we found people who prayed without judgment, cried without pity, loved without conditions. Slowly, our shattered faith rebuilt. Not demanding faith, God, you owe us, but surrendered faith. God, you're able to deliver us, but even if you don't, we'll trust you. We stopped begging for a baby and started thanking God for each other. We volunteered with kids. Restarted adoption paperwork. We chose joy over bitterness. Pastor Grace taught us something crucial. Sometimes God's greatest miracles come after we stop demanding them, when we finally release our white-knuckled grip and trust His timing. In year 3 of fellowship, my body started doing strange things. At first, I ignored the signs. Big mistake. It started with cramping. Not normal cramping. Sharp, then dull, moving low in my abdomen where nothing should be. I dismissed it. Stress. Long shifts. Then my coffee, my beloved morning ritual, suddenly smelled like sewage. I couldn't even walk past the hospital cafeteria without gagging. But pickles? I craved them constantly. Ice cream at 2 a.m. Peanut butter straight from the jar. The fatigue hit like a truck. I fell asleep at 7 p.m. every night. Slept through alarms. Then came nausea. Waves of it, especially mornings. I ran to the hospital bathroom 3 times one shift. Ruth found me pale and shaking. Maya, I know this sounds crazy, but you should take a pregnancy test. I actually laughed. Ruth, I don't have a uterus. That's impossible. Hospital policy requires ruling it out before medications. Please. I sighed and grabbed a test from supply. In the staff bathroom, I barely paid attention. I knew the result. Negative. Always negative. I set a timer. Scrolled my phone. 3 minutes passed. I glanced at the test without real interest. 2 pink lines. My phone clattered to the floor. What would you do if the medically impossible stared back at you? I took 3 more tests. All positive. My hands wouldn't stop shaking when I called Dr. Matthews. I need an appointment. Today. It's urgent. That afternoon, Joshua left his construction site mid-shift. We sat in the familiar exam room, my 3 positive tests lined up on the table like evidence of insanity. Dr. Matthews looked skeptical. Maya, you had a complete hysterectomy. These are false positives. We'll do an ultrasound to find out what's actually happening. The exam room went dark. The technician squeezed gel on my abdomen, right over 11-year-old surgical scars. She moved the probe. Frowned. Moved it again. Then she froze. Set down the probe without a word and left quickly. Minutes crawled by. Joshua's hand crushed mine. Dr. Matthews returned with 2 specialists. All 3 looked like they'd seen a ghost. Dr. Matthews took the probe himself. Scanned slowly. Removed his glasses. Rubbed his eyes hard. According to your surgical records, you had a complete hysterectomy 11 years ago. Correct. Yes, I whispered. He turned the screen toward us. Then how do you explain this? A tiny bean-shaped form. A flickering heartbeat. And surrounding it, a fully formed uterus. You're 12 weeks pregnant, he said quietly. And you have a perfectly healthy uterus where one shouldn't exist. 5 doctors examined Maya over 2 weeks. Every single one confirmed the impossible. They ran every test imaginable. Different ultrasound machines, MRI scans, blood work, genetic testing. Dr. Matthews pulled the original surgical photos from 11 years ago, time-stamped images showing the removed uterine tissue. He pulled pathology reports where that tissue was examined under microscopes and confirmed. The tissue samples still existed in hospital archives, physical proof in labeled jars. Everything was documented, verified, undeniable. The hysterectomy happened. The uterus was removed. Yet here I sat, 12 weeks pregnant with a uterus that shouldn't exist. A senior physician, Dr. Richardson, 30 years experience, sat across from us, tears in his scientific eyes. "I've devoted my life to reproductive medicine," he said quietly. "I can explain almost any condition, almost any outcome." He gestured at my thick file. "I cannot explain this. According to everything medical science understands, you should not be pregnant. You should not have a uterus." His voice dropped to a whisper. "This is a miracle. I don't use that word lightly. But I have no other explanation." Word spread through the hospital like wildfire. Nurses whispered. Doctors stared. And Ruth called Pastor Grace. Thursday night fellowship. Brother Timothy's house this week. When Joshua and I arrived, the door flew open before we could knock. The entire fellowship stood waiting. We walked in. The room erupted. Sister Margaret, who buried a husband and 2 adult children without losing faith, wept like a child. Deep, shaking sobs of pure joy. Brother Timothy shouted, "Hallelujah!" So loud neighbors probably called the police. Pastor Grace fell to her knees, hands raised, worshiping with an intensity that made everyone follow. 15 people on their knees. Crying. Praising. Thanking God for doing what only He could do. They gathered around me, hands gently on my barely showing belly, praying protection, health, thanksgiving. They worshipped until voices were hoarse. Until tears soaked shirts. Until joy was so thick you could feel it pressing against your chest. Even I could barely process it. I kept touching my stomach, feeling for proof this was real. "After 11 years, I whispered to Joshua, "God really did it." Joshua held me carefully, his own tears falling. "I told you I believed he could. But even if he hadn't," his voice broke, "I'd still be here." That's when Jessica appeared in the doorway. Trembling. Tears already falling. Can I come in?" Jessica stood in the doorway, her face streaked with tears and shame. "I'm so sorry," she sobbed. "For the party. For violating your privacy. For my jealousy. For everything." Her voice broke completely. "I have 3 kids and no wisdom to raise them. A marriage falling apart. Constant chaos. And instead of dealing with my mess, I looked at your peaceful life and felt bitter. You deserved children more than anyone, Maya. You would have been an amazing mother from day one. And I wasted the gift." She looked at my pregnant belly, crying harder. "I don't deserve your forgiveness. But I'm begging for it." The room held its breath. I stood slowly, 8 months pregnant now, moving carefully. I walked to Jessica. And I hugged her. "I forgive you. Completely. No conditions." Joshua stood beside us. "We both do." Pastor Grace laid hands on Jessica's shoulders. "God has healing for you too. For your marriage. For your relationship with your kids. We'll walk with you." Jessica collapsed into sobs, but different sobs now. Release. Relief. Freedom. Over the following months, she attended fellowship faithfully. Learned biblical parenting from Pastor Grace. Her husband Marcus eventually joined. Their kids slowly improved. Real transformation. Real healing. And then came the moment we'd waited 11 years for. 39 weeks. Tuesday morning. 4 a.m. Contractions woke me. Steady, rhythmic, unmistakable. Joshua. It's time. His eyes flew open. It's time? It's time. The hospital was the same one where the miracle was discovered 9 months ago. Ruth was my nurse. I'm not missing this for anything. Labor lasted 12 hours. Joshua never left, wiping my forehead, praying, reminding me to breathe. Pastor Grace, Sister Margaret, and Brother Timothy filled the waiting room. Finally, "Okay, Maya, big push." I pushed. Once. Twice. 3 times. Pressure. Pain. Release. Then a cry. A strong, healthy, perfect cry. "It's a girl." Dr. Matthews' voice broke. Perfect and healthy. Ruth placed her on my chest, warm, wet, impossibly tiny. I looked down at this miracle baby and sobbed. "Hi, sweet girl. I'm your mama. We waited so long." Joshua cut the cord with shaking hands, tears streaming. "She's perfect. 7 pounds, 2 ounces. Perfect health." We named her Grace Hope. As I nursed her, I looked up at the fellowship, the family, the doctors who witnessed the impossible. 11 years ago, doctors said I'd never carry a child. But I'm holding impossible right now. If you're facing impossible today, don't give up. Trust God. Seek help. Find community. Have faith that says, God can deliver me, but even if He doesn't, I'll still trust Him. What impossible thing are you believing God for today? Keep believing.